I wasn't the boss. I wasn't the owner. But I was the one keeping that place alive, and they didn't see it until I left. People think family businesses are warm and fuzzy, that working with your parents and siblings must feel like one big group hug every day. Nah, it feels like being chained to a roller coaster you didn't buy a ticket for. My name's Eli. I'm 26, and I used to manage my family's nail salon in Fresno, California. And when I say manage, I mean do everything except breathe for the clients. I booked appointments. I handled the inventory. I posted on our social media. I designed our brochures. I ordered towels. I cleaned chairs. And when we were short-staffed, I even learned how to run the register and do basic polish removal. Meanwhile, my sister Melanie rolled in at noon with iced coffee, posted selfies in the break room, and left early because her energy was off. She also drove a G-Wagon. Guess who paid for it? Let me back up a bit. My parents opened Tran Nail Studio when I was 17, and Melanie was 20. We weren't rolling in money, but it was a decent-sized space with 6 chairs, a decent parking lot, and enough foot traffic to stay busy. My dad handled the basic setup. My mom worked the front desk. Melanie had just finished beauty school and wanted to be a nail artist. And I was just helping out for the summer. Helping out turned into staying. And staying turned into running the damn place. By the time I was 22, I was the reason we were turning consistent profits. I created our appointment system from scratch, linked it to Yelp, added automated reminders, and organized our entire client list by frequency, services, and payment history. I even built in a referral tracker so we could see which clients were bringing in new faces. I hired 3 of our best performing techs, trained them, scheduled them, made sure they never overlapped too much so we could avoid burnout and still stay profitable. But no one called me manager. I was just Eli, the helpful younger brother. Melanie, on the other hand, she worked 2 days a week when she felt like it. She had no regular clients, but she always acted like the face of the brand. She'd post TikToks about owning a salon when she barely knew how to read the booking schedule. Oh, and she had the business credit card. At first, it was little stuff. Iced coffees, new work shoes, lunches she never reimbursed. But over time, she started going nuts. Designer handbags, spa days, random charges from designer boutiques in LA. She once bought a $1,600 curling iron and said it was for client content. My parents said nothing. When I brought it up, Melanie's just trying to build her brand, Mom said. She brings energy, Dad added. People like her. You're the organized one. She's the creative. Creative? She couldn't even keep her nail desk clean. The worst part? They always made me feel guilty for caring about the money. When I'd point out how tight our margins were, or how Melanie had just bought her second pair of Louis Vuitton slides, they'd hit me with, "This isn't just about profit, Eli. We're family." Cool. So I'm the free labor, and she's the one with free parking at the mall. I kept quiet for a long time. Too long, honestly. I didn't want to cause problems. I told myself it wasn't forever, that maybe they'd come around, until the G-Wagon. It was a Saturday afternoon. I had just finished a full day of back-to-back appointments because 2 techs called out. I was sweaty, hungry, and mentally fried. Melanie pulled into the lot like it was a runway. Brand new matte black Mercedes-Benz G-Wagon. Red interior, freshly detailed. She parked crooked, slammed the door, walked in like she owned the place. "You like it?" she said. "I deserve it. I've been working lately." Working? She had 2 appointments that week, both late. One walked out. I didn't say a word, just nodded and went to the back room. That night, I opened the bank account tied to the business card. The down payment had hit that morning. On our card. I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about all the nights I stayed late to do inventory, all the times I skipped lunch to fix the printer, the holiday hours I picked up when everyone else canceled last minute. I did that. I kept this business afloat. And they were letting Melanie drain it dry because she wore acrylics and pouted when she didn't get her way. At 2:13 a.m., I opened my laptop and searched commercial lease small retail space Fresno. I wasn't sure what I was looking for, but something inside me had snapped. I didn't want to be part of this anymore. Not like this. By the next week, I had narrowed it down to 2 locations. One was too far out in the suburbs, cheap but bad foot traffic. The other? It was directly across the street from Tran Nail Studio. Smaller, quieter, but freshly remodeled and move-in ready. I stared at the listing for a long time. Something about being that close felt wrong and right. That weekend, I tried one last time to talk to my parents. I laid everything out. The spending, the hours, the responsibilities I'd taken on, the way Melanie treated the salon like a shopping cart. They looked uncomfortable but said nothing. When I told them I was thinking of starting something on my own, my mom frowned, like I told her I was joining a gang. Why would you leave us like this? Because I'm tired of being used. You're not being used, Eli. You're part of the family. Exactly. And I'm the only one acting like it. The next week, I signed the lease. I used my savings, about 15 calories I'd been putting aside for someday. Someday had arrived. I called it polished and true, because that's what I wanted, a salon that did clean work and kept it honest. I didn't tell anyone right away, not even Melanie, but I started reaching out to a few of our clients, just the ones who knew me personally, told them I was launching something new. Private messages, casual invites, no poaching, no drama. And then I posted one sentence on Instagram. Opening soon, the kind of place where work speaks louder than handbags. A few weeks later, I was painting the inside walls of the new space when I heard a familiar voice behind me. Did you really have to park it across the street? Melanie. Hair perfect. Nails freshly done. Phone in one hand. A scowl on her face. I didn't turn around right away. Just finished the stroke I was painting. Didn't know I needed your permission. You're being dramatic. No, I'm being independent. This is a betrayal. I finally looked at her. You betrayed the business every time you used it like a purse. She blinked like I'd slapped her. Then she stormed off. That was the first of many awkward stares from across the street, but it was also the last time I felt guilty about leaving. After Melanie showed up with the G-Wagon, I didn't even argue. I didn't ask how she got approved for a car like that on part-time hours. I already knew the answer. I also didn't tell my parents I'd been looking at retail spaces. Not yet. I wanted to be sure. That same week, I toured a spot just across the street from Tran Nail Studio. It was clean, recently renovated, and slightly smaller, but it had a peaceful energy the family salon never had. No clutter, no shouting in the back room, just empty walls and silence. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel tense in my chest. I asked the leasing agent to hold it while I thought about it. That weekend, I sat my parents down. I told them I was tired, that I'd been handling everything. Schedules, marketing, customer complaints, while Melanie barely showed up and used the company card like her personal bank account. I was calm. I didn't yell. I just listed facts. My mom folded her arms. She's your sister, Eli. She's just trying to find her path. Her path is paved with my work, I said, and you guys handed her the credit card for it. My dad didn't even look up from his phone. You've always been the responsible one. She's different. She needs more support. I stared at him. And I don't? That was the last time I asked that question. 2 days later, I signed the lease across the street. I took the money I'd saved from side gigs and small bonuses I gave myself, quietly, when the salon had good months. Total, $14,800. It was everything I had. I bought 3 chairs, a fresh set of tools, and repainted the walls myself with the help of a friend. I kept the design simple. Pale sage green, natural wood tones, soft lighting. I called it polished and true, because that's what I wanted. Something honest. No drama. No faking it for Instagram. Just clean nails, real people, and zero tolerance for chaos. Melanie found out a week before we opened. She came over in a tight crop top, sunglasses on indoors, and that attitude like she was starring in a reality show nobody asked for. You're really doing this across the street? Yup. Wow, you're petty. No, I'm just finally prioritizing myself. She looked around the space like she was trying to find something to criticize, but there was nothing. Everything was minimal, clean, and already more put together than Tran Nail Studio had been in months. Good luck finding clients, she said as she walked out. Spoiler alert, I didn't need luck. I messaged a few of our loyal customers privately. Nothing aggressive. Just a simple update that I'd moved and was starting something new. I didn't mention Melanie. I didn't trash the family. I said, if you liked working with me, I'd love to keep seeing you. About 15 clients replied the same day. I got my first appointment before I even officially opened. And then came Lana. one of the nail techs from the old place. She'd been quiet at Tran Nail Studio, but I always noticed how clean her work was. She messaged me out of nowhere. "You hiring? I saw your post, just say the word." I brought her in part-time. Best decision I ever made. She was steady, fast, and professional, and the clients loved her. We were in business. 2 weeks after we opened, my mom came by. She didn't book an appointment. She just stood in the doorway, arms crossed. "So this is where you've been?" "Yep." "Your dad says you're embarrassing the family." "I'm working. Same as always, just not cleaning up Melanie's mess anymore." She didn't say much after that, just gave a half shrug and left. I thought that would be the end of it. Then the online stuff started. Fake reviews popped up on our Yelp. Rude staff, cheap materials, unprofessional vibe. The grammar was suspiciously bad. Like, bad enough that I recognized it. Melanie's old captions used to look the same. At first, I ignored it. Then one of her friends posted a story tagging my salon with a caption. "He thinks a little paint and a business card makes him better than family." So I posted something too. It was a picture of my team, just me, Lana, and our new receptionist, smiling after a full day. Caption? "Grateful for the peace that comes from hard work. No shortcuts here." Didn't mention them. Didn't need to. People can smell the difference. The next month was a blur, but in the best way. We were booked solid for the first 2 weeks of December. By New Year's, we had return clients. People were tagging us on Instagram stories. Brenda Hill, the influencer, came back and filmed a full video. Word was spreading. Meanwhile, across the street, the family salon was starting to unravel. One of their nail techs walked out mid-shift. I later heard Melanie accused her of stealing polish. Another client came into our shop crying after Melanie botched her acrylics and then blamed her for moving too much. I wanted to say I was surprised. I wasn't. One day, a former Tran customer walked into my salon and said, "It feels peaceful here. Like, I don't have to perform." That one stuck with me, because that's how I used to feel. Performing, constantly, like I had to prove I was valuable. Like I had to make up for existing. Not anymore. Now I opened and closed my own doors. Now I could breathe. By the time my salon, Polished and True, had been open for 2 months, something strange started happening. People I'd never met were walking in, asking for me by name. At first, it was a trickle, a few curious walk-ins. Then it picked up. This is the place where you don't get side-eyed for asking questions. "They actually run on time here?" The guy who runs it, super respectful, cleanest tools I've ever seen. I didn't have flashing signs. No influencer partnerships at first, no TikTok dances, just fair prices, skilled staff, and the guarantee that we would never treat customers like they were lucky to be there. And somehow, that stood out. My first real break came from a woman named Brenda Hill, a local lifestyle influencer with a decent following. She came in because her appointment at Tran Nail Studio was canceled last minute, and she was already in the area. She was polite, quiet, seemed to be observing everything. The next day, I found out she'd posted a full story about our place. I was expecting backup nails, okay? But Eli? He runs a tight ship. Calm music, spotless floors, actual professionals. I didn't feel like I was in someone's high school reunion group chat. 10/10s. She tagged us. That story got over 40,000 views. We had 15 new bookings in 24 hours. Across the street, Tran Nail Studio had 3 cancellations. The next few weeks were a blur. We started seeing new faces every day. Some came from Yelp, some were friends of Brenda's, a few were former clients of the old salon, and some of them weren't shy about explaining why they'd left. I booked with Melanie, and she didn't even look up from her phone when I walked in. I showed up, and she said she was too drained to do acrylics that day. My nails were so uneven, my friend thought I did them myself. Then I noticed something interesting. Melanie? She was suddenly working full-time hours, but it wasn't from some magical burst of ambition. 2 of her coworkers had quit. One of them DM'd me. "You're not toxic. That's rare in this line of work." Another one literally walked into Polished and True on her day off and asked if I had a chair available. I didn't. Not yet. But I took her number. A few days later, Melanie came storming in. "Are you stealing our staff now?" I just blinked at her. No. But people leave chaos when they're tired of apologizing for it. She opened her mouth like she had a comeback, and then left without saying another word. Around that time, I checked Tran Nail Studio's Yelp page. Curiosity, I guess. The reviews had taken a nosedive. 45-minute wait for a 2 p.m. appointment. No apology. Nails were lumpy and rushed. Melanie cut my cuticle and didn't say sorry. Charged full price. I miss the guy who used to work here. I think his name was Eli. It wasn't 1 review. It was 12. In 2 weeks. Meanwhile, ours? Best salon experience I've had in California. Professional, clean, and respectful. Finally. You can tell Eli runs it with care. It shows in every little detail. That last one hit different. Then came the day my parents showed up. They didn't call. Didn't text. Just walked in mid-afternoon. My mom looked like she'd been crying. My dad had that stiff jaw thing he does when he's bracing for a tough conversation. "We need to talk," she said. I had a client waiting, so I told them they could come back at 6 p.m. if they wanted to. Not because I was being petty, but because I wasn't going to rearrange my life anymore for people who ignored me until they needed something. They actually came back. I sat them down in the waiting area. No tea, no fake smiles. "We need your help," my dad said. "You mean like before?" I replied. "When I ran 80% of the business and got blamed for having attitude when I spoke up?" They looked down. Then my mom finally said, "We didn't realize how much you did." Until it started falling apart. "Your sister can't keep up," my dad added quietly. No kidding. They asked if I could help them get the business back on track. Maybe just a few weeks. I said no. "I gave you my time. I gave you my effort. I even gave you money for rent before I opened this place. And none of that was good enough. So no, I'm not your backup plan now that Melanie ran it into the ground." There wasn't much left to say. They left quietly. 2 weeks later, I heard the news. Tran Nail Studio was shutting down. Couldn't pay rent. Couldn't keep bookings. Couldn't function. Lana, one of the techs who'd worked with me there, called me to tell me. It was coming for a while. Melanie tried to manage the books and overcharged 3 clients in 1 week. One of them threatened to call the BBB. My parents? They picked up part-time jobs at another salon across town. They weren't owners anymore. They weren't managers. Just staff. Melanie tried freelancing from home, but the damage to her reputation was done. Too slow. Too messy. Too much attitude. I heard she started selling some of her luxury bags to keep up with rent. Meanwhile, I had a 2-week wait list. I was training a new receptionist. I was looking into adding skincare services. And most importantly, I wasn't exhausted all the time. I wasn't bitter. I wasn't hiding my emotions. I wasn't wondering if I was going to get blamed for someone else's mistake that day. Sometimes clients ask me if I still talk to my family. I always say the same thing. We're figuring things out, but I'm good now. Because it's true. This wasn't revenge. It was the result of honesty, boundaries, and finally putting myself first. A year after opening Polish and True, I stood in my break room, sipping coffee, and realized something weird. I hadn't thought about Tran Nail Studio in weeks. Not my parents' salon, not Melanie, not the fights, not the stress. It wasn't that I didn't care anymore. It's that I didn't need to. Peace isn't loud. It's not flashy. It's quiet mornings, steady bookings, and not having to explain why your hard work matters. And for once, I didn't have to fight for it. My salon was doing well. Not millionaire level or anything, but stable. We had 5 techs now, all of them trained, paid fairly, and treated like actual humans. Lana became my lead tech and manager when I wasn't around. We'd expanded services to include basic skincare, brow shaping, and mini massages. We didn't have drama. We had systems. We didn't scream. We sent calendar invites. Clients started referring to our shop as the calm one across the street. Except there wasn't anything across the street anymore. Tran Nail Studio was long gone. That building is now a vape shop. Sometimes I glance at it and feel nothing. Just quiet. My parents? They work across town now, part-time, at a mid-tier salon that lets them clock in and out without pressure. My mom called me a few months ago, just to talk. She didn't ask for anything. Didn't bring up Melanie. She said, "You were right. We didn't listen. And I'm sorry." It wasn't dramatic. It was soft, honest. I told her I appreciated it. Because I did. My dad hasn't said much, but I ran into him once when I stopped by their new salon to drop off supplies for a mutual vendor. He looked tired but not angry. He said, "You always were the one who made things run. We just didn't see it in time." That's the closest I've ever gotten to an apology from him. It was enough. Melanie, She's still around, bouncing between booths, trying to get regulars. The Flash is gone. No more designer bags. No G-Wagon. She's driving a used Camry now. Last I heard, she's trying to build a nail class on TikTok. I hope it works for her. I don't hate her, but I also don't trust her. Sometimes people don't realize the damage they do until there's no one left to blame it on. About a month ago, she walked into Polished and True. It was slow, just me and Lana at the front. She stood at the door, looking around like she wasn't sure whether to say hi or walk out. "It's nice," she said finally. "Better than I expected." I nodded. "Thanks." She looked at me, kind of unsure. "You ever think about starting over, like all of us?" I paused. "I think about growing," I said, "and I hope you do too." She gave a small, sad smile and left. We haven't spoken since. People sometimes ask if I ever wish I had stayed, kept the family business going, kept things united. And the truth is, no, because staying would have meant shrinking, and leaving was the only way I could grow. I didn't leave them. I just stopped waiting to be treated fairly. There's a difference. Now, I open my doors every morning with music playing and no tension in my chest. My team greets me like a partner, not like a babysitter. Clients ask for advice. They refer their friends. They say it feels like we see them. And for someone who spent years being invisible in his own family, that means everything. One of my newer staff, a 22-year-old nail tech named Myra, once said, "You're the chillest boss I've ever had. I didn't even know salon owners could be like this." I laughed. But deep down, I knew why. Because I remember what it's like to work for people who only notice you when you're gone. And I promised myself I'd never be that kind of boss, or brother, or person. Sometimes I still get flashbacks to the slammed weekends at the old salon as if running back and forth while Melanie posted selfies in the break room. To my mom telling me to stop being so sensitive when I asked about the money. To my dad shrugging like being invisible was my role in the family. But those memories aren't heavy anymore. They're just reminders of what I'll never go back to. Last week, I found one of the old Tran Nail Studio appointment books when I was cleaning out storage. It still had my handwriting on the inside cover. If no one notices, still do it right. I closed the book and smiled, because now they notice. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed, please like, share, and subscribe for more content. If you want to share your stories, please comment below. Additionally, what is your opinion on the poster's decision?